Hello and welcome. My name's Dr. Gillian Ray-Barruel from the University of Queensland, and in this presentation I'm going to talk to you about writing with impact, adding punch to your publications. So, some learning objectives for the session. At the end of the session you'll be able to understand the difference between fit and flabby prose, you'll recognise 5 flags of flabby writing, and you'll hopefully relish writing academic papers with purpose and punch. Let's go. I'm going to read you this paragraph to kick us off. The capacity of a decision unit to induce innovation implementation within an adoption unit is crucial to organisational success. Risk and complexity are characteristics of innovations that can lead to resistance within organisational adoption units. Communication costs, types of power, and communication channels are structural characteristics that can be used by a decision unit to overcome this resistance. The interaction of these factors can determine the degree of successful innovation implementation within organisations. Huh? And what was that about? I'm going to suggest this is flabby prose. What would be fit prose? Organisations thrive on change. However, many employees resist new ideas that they perceive as too risky or complex. Successful managers break down such resistance by communicating with staff clearly and strategically. Now that makes sense. It's the same thing that was said in the first paragraph in fewer than half the words and much more simply. So how can you turn your writing into this fit prose? Well, first of all, let's look at what makes writing flabby. The first thing is long-winded and wordy sentences. Now, I love this quote from Thomas Jefferson. The most valuable of all talents is that of never using 2 words when one will do. So here we have long-winded, wordy sentences. 19 words, 23 words, okay? You just lose the reader when you go on and on and on. Unless, of course, you want to bring people on a journey. So you can use a long sentence for a purpose. Here we have Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the colour of their skin, but by the content of their character. So we're all familiar with this. The sentences are long, but the words have colour, they have meaning, they have purpose, and they really pull you along. The next flag of flabby writing is weak verbs. So any verbs is, are, can should be changed. Okay? Spice up your verbs. Here I've got some examples of how to do that. So risk and complexity are characteristics of innovations that can lead to resistance within organisational adoption units. They could have said risk and complexity contribute to resistance within organisational adoption units. Communication costs, type of power, and communication channels are structural characteristics that can be used by a decision unit to overcome this resistance. Or you could say savvy leaders employ communication costs, types of power and communication channels to overcome this resistance. And finally, the next one is vague abstract terms. And I've highlighted all of those in orange. So the way to reduce this sign of flabby writing is to be specific. Okay, so instead of inducing innovation implementation, you could implement change. Organisational adoption units. Well, I'm in healthcare, so I put target wards. But who are you targeting? So it's your target. Specify what it is. Decision unit. I actually had to read the paragraph numerous times to understand that the decision unit meant leaders. And successful innovation implementation with organisations could be simply said achievement of planned outcomes. The fourth flag of flabby writing is nominalisations. So these are words that end in tion, sion, meant, ents, ants, etc. You can see that the paragraph uses loads of these. How do you reduce nominalisations? Well, you take the noun and you turn it into a verb. So for example, instead of take into consideration, you consider. You may contemplate, appraise, reflect, etc. Make a decision becomes decide. Provide information to becomes inform. Enable the substitution of becomes substitute, replace or switch. Overcome resistance to conquer. So with lots of other options for you there. So you can see that by turning the noun into your verb, makes it much shorter and gives it a bit of punch. The next one is overuse of prepositions of, for, in, by and to, or within. So here, the problem with these is that they meander on and they make the sentence much longer, and you get to the end of the sentence and you've really got to go back to the beginning to find out what was happening here, who was leading you along the way here. Well, how do you get rid of these things or reduce use of these things? You have to restructure the sentence. Okay. Here we've got the capacity of a decision unit to induce innovation implementation within an adoption unit is crucial to organisational success. Or you could just say organisational success depends on leaders who can inspire change. You can see in my examples, you don't completely get rid of your use of prepositions, obviously, but you do reduce them where you can. Now this is just a sneaky little favourite of mine. I'm quite allergic to sentences that begin with there was or there were, particularly when you've got there were such and such that. And again, because I'm in healthcare, there were many dressings that were loose and soiled. Or you could just say many dressings were loose and soiled. There were many times when I was not sure how to get started. Or often I would struggle to begin. There was no evidence that the training group that saw the video understood or appreciated effective time management more than the training group that read the book without seeing the video. Again, I had to read that one a few times, but essentially they were trying to say understanding and appreciation of effective time management was similar for the book only and the video training groups. So fit prose minimises use of the 5 flags. Back to our simple fit paragraph. We've reduced the long, windy, wordy sentences, taken out weak verbs. We've now got thrive, resist, break down. Okay? It's no longer vague or abstract. The nominalizations have been substantially removed and the prepositions have been substantially reduced. However, I must say all of these can be very useful in your writing if you don't actually want readers to understand what you're saying. You're deliberately trying to confuse or bore your reader. You're trying to sound smarter than your reader, or you're a politician. Politicians use this sort of long-winded jargon all the time because they know that people will tune out and think that they sound smart and they must know what they're talking about. But it's a trick, so be aware of it and don't do it, unless, of course, you're a politician. Or Jane Austen, who can do no wrong. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. And thanks for listening.